Powered by Riverside FM.
Okay, so now let's put it to untitled recording again. So let me change that to power rankings and see if that applies.
Power ranking.
Power ranking. So for this episode, should we do it in the style of who was the old let's get ready to rumble guy?
Oh yeah, what's his name? He had a perfect name for doing that voiceover stuff. Let's get ready to rumble.
Michael Buffer.
Michael Buffer. Yeah, that was his name.
Yeah, Michael Buffer. That's I remember he was on an episode of The Simpsons where they were just like, we were going to get like Hank or Dan to do it, but I thought, let's pay the guy.
Let's get the guy to do it.
I think as well because Let's Get Ready to Rumble. I think might be.
It's trademarked.
Yeah, I think he trademarks it.
Yeah,
so,
he does. He's the only one who can say, "Let's get ready to rumble."
Okay, well, I'm gonna remind me to bleep that out.
Bleep out. Let's get ready to rumble. We're not rumbling, and we're not doing anything that could be legally similar to rumbling here.
Absolutely not. Okay, let me try and think of an intro then on the spot for. Should I even do a voice for this? Actually, we're into it. We might as well just get going.
The intro. This is the intro. What are you talking about?
Yeah, this is the intro. Folks,
power ranking.
Welcome to the end of the That's So Raven mini-series, where for these past few weeks, me and Kevin from PixelLit have been going through and reviewing the shooters of Wisconsin-based Raven Software. And when I say the shooters that they made, we didn't start with the Black Crypt or Cyclones, but we did start with Heretic, their first collaboration with id, which I thought pretty interesting place to begin with that. You know, it's And then we went all the way up to Singularity, which was their quote unquote final original.
It's
FPS.
their send off.
Yeah, because they're still around today, as we kind of been talking about. They're still making games. I mean. Making games. They're making game today. They're making
one
Call
game,
of Duty Warzone.
year after year.
Yeah, constantly they are just working on Warzone.
One must imagine that Raven is happy.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I would hope so. I mean, one of the Raffles is still. I think Brian is still the CEO of the company, and I'm sure he's very happy with the stuff that they're doing. But
yeah.
But no, why are we here? Well, we're here because we're going to give me and Kevin are going to we're gonna bash it out. We're gonna come up with the all-time bullet time rankings for the games that we covered. There's 10 of them in total, and we have them ranked on a scale of golden cup emoji all the way down to poop emoji, which is
poop emoji.
That's the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So how should we do this? Should we try and do this should we just do it game by game and try and figure out where they should sit and then argue whether to swap some about, or like what?
Let's do it game by. Well, let's do it game by game, and then we'll have to probably slide them around as we go.
You know what might be easy? Why don't we just start by putting Heretic at number 5, and then we can say...
I was about to say 4 or 5 for Heretic. Let's slide Heretic right in the mid pack there.
Okay, so
I have a feeling it's going to live around there.
I think so. Yeah, like Heretic was a good game. It was, even though it was old, it was very kind of Doom engine-y. It did feel like it did punch above its weight. It was pretty interesting what they came up with. So yeah, we'll put that at number 5 for now. Now, Hexen Beyond Heretic. I think that goes above
it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move Heretic to number 6, and I'm going to put Hexen now smack in the middle, because I think, much like the episode, Hexen is just a more refined and more ambitious and interesting version of Heretic, essentially. Sure. They're more comfortable in the Doom engine. They're able to do a bit more with it.
Yeah.
Now,
this
Hexen
is where we
2.
split. This is where we split.
So
This is the divide, because I like Hexen 2 a lot more than you do.
but do you like Hexen 2 more than the original Hexen?
That's a good point. For me, I think the original Hexen is probably more fun than Hexen 2 overall.
I agree with that as well. Hexen 2 is, in regards, it's an earlier Quake game, so they're not doing Michael Jordan style styling at this point, like they were with Hexen.
They're not fucking them kids, you know.
Yeah.
That
I think
didn't sound
Hexen
right.
2 is a better game than Heretic. Yeah, fuck them kids. Heretic. Hexen 2, I think, is a better game than Heretic, but I think same as you, Hexen is a more interesting, like, just again, it just has more polish to it. It's got a couple more cool ideas on the go, and I think when you think of like a Raven game, like Hexen is that versus Hexen 2, which I feel like a lot of people probably didn't even know that it had a sequel. So
yeah,
I'm going to move Hexen to number 4. Hexen 2 is going to
sandwich him in there, because I would say Hexen 2 is definitely better than Heretic.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like I liked Heretic a lot, but mostly as kind of like an object of fascination versus, say, what Hexen did, where Hexen is just even today, is still a genuinely really solid game.
Yeah.
And now we get very much more into the Quake era, as we now have to talk about Soldier of Fortune. And
I think you could slide that bad boy onto number 3 for now.
You would put this above Hexen.
Oh, do I? No, I don't know.
No, I feel this goes above Hexen 2, 1,000%. But
sure,
I think Hexen is. I think this
Hexen is still better.
Yeah, so Hexen goes at number 3, I think, and I don't know. Do you feel
so? No, I wouldn't move those down yet. I would just move Hexen up to 3.
No, so Hexen is technically at the moment our bronze medal winner. Soldier of Fortune's at number 4, Hexen 2's at number 5, and Heretic's at number 6. Yeah, Soldier of Fortune is a weird one, because when we initially talked about it, I kind of hated it a lot more than when I actually kind of dug into it and we started talking about it, and I went, no, actually, this is just, on a pure gameplay level, this is good. Like, it's Meathead Rainbow Six. And I think because of that, it's just, it's a lot of... It has like a little bit of tactical juice to it, but not so much that it bores it down. It's just a fun, solid little game, and very unlike what they would do afterwards. You know, it's not like it doesn't have that Doom level design, which like the future stuff kind of does up until about Wolfenstein. So
I agree.
Star Trek Voyager Elite Forces. This is going below Heretic, right?
I don't know. I could move it down to the poop emoji right now, but
should we just put this straight at poop emoji then? Okay,
let's put it right at poop emoji, which is hilarious. Given like when we in that episode when we talked about the reviews, how glowingly it was reviewed.
Yes,
Evelyn brought that up, and to us, it's a poop emoji game.
Absolutely. Interesting. I have got an interesting question to ask you though, and like even though on the episode that we did about Legendary, we were very positive and tried to be like, look, this is a game that wasn't really able to kind of reach its potential, but like we should look at it in object of fascination. I still think Legendary is maybe the worst thing that we've covered.
It's the worst thing that we've played by far.
Would you put but has Elite Forces beat that? Like, is Elite Forces worse than Legendary?
So, I'm of two minds. Legendary has things in it where you can, if you squint a little bit, you're like, oh, I see what they were trying to do. Like, their eyes were too big for their stomachs, and they just failed on every level, but they had a thought. Star Trek Elite Forces just is bland from beginning to end. It's just it's like the unseasoned chicken of a first person shooter. So I would still put I would possibly put Legendary above Star Trek Elite Forces, even though gameplay wise Elite Forces feels better to play.
See, I was going to go, because I agree with you as well in regards to, like, what you were saying, like, it's a more ambitious title and stuff like that, but then kind of weighed it out in my mind. I was like, I need something to kind of, like, peak this. And the thing is that because Legendary is still an Xbox 360 game and still came in the wake of, like, Half-Life 2 and Modern Warfare and has that kind of, like, it's not a great game, but it still has a expected level of quality of life and polish to it.
Right.
Elite Forces comes from an age before that, and although I should be
before
looking
polish
at
existed.
before polish existed, yeah, and even though I should be looking at these things without, like, you know, bias, I should be like, I should be comparing this to games that came out at the time, but
Right.
it's a Quake game. It doesn't play as well as Quake. It's not like, you know, and again,
it moves
like,
slower than Quake somehow.
Somehow, if I was more of a Star Trek fan, maybe this would squeak a little bit higher, because that is purely what it has going for it, is production value. But
Yeah.
Legendary has griffins and werewolves and stuff, and I know what those are, and I like shooting those. So, like, unfortunately, just on pure subjectivity, Legendary is a little bit higher than that for me. Even though, again, all the interiors in Elite Forces are beautiful recreations of the game versus Legendary, which is set in grey warehouses or
Gray warehouses and
outdoors.
subways and streets in New York that are broken.
And this is an FPS podcast, so I should be more like, well, what's the shooting like? And as bad as Legendary was, the shooting feels leagues better than it did in Elite Forces.
It feels like your bullets are making impact
Yes.
as opposed to the phasers and energy weapons in Star Trek, where it's just like, yeah, but unfortunately, Legendary is not on the list. But were it to be on the list, it would be above. It would be above poop emoji.
Elite Forces is getting a special. I'm trying to think of the term here, because not like a not commiseration, but it's like, you know, when you get like a kind of a special award for kind of like going above and beyond. Elite Forces gets a special note for being so far the worst game that we've played for this podcast.
Yes,
And absolutely not deserving of the praise that it got at the time or since.
Yeah.
Apologies to LGR, who does very much like Star Trek.
LGR likes the game.
Oh yeah, he thinks the game is tip top, but then he is a Voyager fan, and he actually got the multiplayer working. So,
and he probably played it on a like a wood paneled 1999 Dell computer or something.
He had
like
period
that.
appropriate hardware. He had the box. We may need to do a very quick ranking at the end of our box art, which is like, you know, our number one box art. We'll quickly do that. But Star Trek, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast.
Yeah.
This is a toughie because I want to. So it's not as good as Hexen, for us.
No.
So Hexen, I'm going to move up quickly and kind of
put that at a silver medal.
But
I think Soldier of Fortune's better.
I also think Soldier of Fortune's better than Jedi Outcast. So once again,
I was hard on Jedi Outcast in our episode. I mean,
yeah,
I would potentially move it even lower, but
wow, you'd put it below a Hexen 2.
I might, because the shooting the shooting section of Jedi Outcast is so bad it prevented me from even getting to the Jedi portion of the game.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's right. See,
I
here's the
couldn't.
thing.
I gave up on. It was just so like the fact that you can't hit somebody right in front of you with the guns because the range of spray is just so all over the map in that game.
Yeah, I don't know if I totally agree, and that's just because of how I felt about Hexen 2 had a lot of interesting ideas, but like,
yeah,
Jedi Outcast has a level of polish to it that, and when I say polish, I don't mean presentation, I just mean
and the more that I think about it, yeah, it is. Even with that, it probably still is more fun to play than Hexen 2. So I agree. Let's put it at 4.
Okay, we'll slide on it in at number 4 then, which I should, by the way, and I should say to these people, I should say to the people at home as well, Star Trek Elite Forces is the only game on this list which I think is genuinely bad. Everything else here, though, they are all really solid FPS games.
That's why it gets a poop emoji.
Yes, Elite Forces is worse than Legendary. Everything else that we've played, though, even Quake 4 to an extent, does kind of feel like it does really punch above its weight, which again is the whole kind of point of the podcast, is to kind of be like, these games are just sort of like... I think especially the later 2 games that they make, it's like, oh no, these games are like genuinely very good. Actually, so Star Wars, Jedi Knight 3, Jedi Academy. This is the one where I'm really struggling to think where to put this.
I like it. I think it's a lot. So to me, Jedi Academy was a perfect response to everything I felt wrong with Jedi Outcast.
It's higher. It has to be higher than Jedi Outcast. Where I'm struggling is that did I like it more than Soldier of Fortune?
I think I personally liked it more than Soldier of Fortune. I thought it was a lot more fun. But that being said, it is mostly a third-person action game. There's only a few opportunities where it dips back into first person.
And I think I still prefer the campaign of Soldier of Fortune. Like, it's...
Sure.
I mean, it's stupid more on a kind of... But it's stupid in kind of more of a story level. The actual gameplay of it isn't too bad.
Yeah, it's very much... Soldier of Fortune's levels, too, are very much... feel very Quake in a good way, but with just regular people in them instead of monsters. And I think that is good for it, you know?
And I think Soldier of Fortune is consistent all the way through, versus Star Wars has higher highs but also lower lows. Like, for every level where it's the Sarlacc monster and you're climbing across, debris, that's a cool level. But then you have, like, the level where you meet Chewie and there's, like, no immediate way to figure out where the hell am I supposed to go.
Oh, God, yeah, that level was pretty poorly designed, because you're just running through a bunch of, like... hangars that all look the same. So
it's definitely going above Jedi Outcast. Does it go below?
Yes.
Okay, so
yeah,
what I'm going to do is I'm going to
slide all those down.
All down. So now at number 4 is Jedi Academy. Quake 4.
Yeah. Number 9. Moving on.
Hold on a second now. Hold on.
All right, go through the process. Is it worse than all of those things? Yes.
No. Hold on.
Okay.
I like Heretic on a aesthetic and concept level more than Quake 4. But if gone to my head, somebody who was like,
being truly honest,
which would you rather
James.
play, Heretic or Quake 4? I would probably rather play Quake 4. And it's only because it's a slightly... But then Heretic is more like Doom, so it's quick. Oh, God. The thing is that I like Quake 4 more than I liked Hexen 2. But that's purely because of how much I do. But then this is a list about compromises. It isn't... Bullet Time isn't the James show. It's James and Kevin have been working on this mini-series. So... Yeah. Give me your impassioned defense. Why is Heretic higher than Quake 4?
Heretic is Doom, but Dungeons and Dragons. It feels it's fast, it's furious. It tried. Heretic tried shit, whereas Quake 4 took shit away. Sure. Quake 4, if we're looking at them within the context of when they were released. Quake 4 took all of the worst aspects of Doom 3, which was slowing the game down, fucking flashlights. Jesus Christ, get out of here with the flashlights. Flashlights on only 2 guns. What are we doing here? And Quake 4 deserves to be below Heretic just because of the vehicle segments. The vehicle segments are.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Quake 4 has the worst vehicle segments I have ever played in a game, including Mass Effect 1.
You know what? And it totally reminded me of something that I can't remember if I said it on the episode or said it to you while we were playing it, which is Heretic was a brand new game. Like no one was
no one had made Heretic before.
It was built on the Doom engine, so it had the expectations of, is this going to be as good as Doom? And I think it does it. But Quake 4 is a sequel to Quake 3 Arena and all the other these games that have been the specter of this series in regards to, without Quake, you don't get Soldier of Fortune or the Star Wars game or Hexen 2 for that matter. Like, it is the or Star Trek Elite Forces. It's the game that you don't get any of those titles without. And so Quake is so FPS games. Quake is such an important franchise to that as well. And so the fact that the Quake 4 doesn't really meet those expectations. And again, we need to kind of stress that obviously we don't know what happened in the development. We don't know how much time they had to work on it.
All we can we can only state our opinion on the finished product that we got. Exactly. Obviously, everything else plays into context, but come on, this isn't video essay mode here. This is podcast mode. So.
All right, number 9. Number 9 with a bullet is Quake 4 then. Now, I'm going to... These two were probably going to compare a lot against each other, but I want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
I was about to shift everything down, which was going to put Hexen at third place.
Yeah.
Should we move everything but Hexen down? Because both these games are better than Soldier of Fortune, in my opinion.
I would agree to that, yeah.
Okay. But comparing them to Hexen is the trickier thing in my mind, because especially putting it in not only is Hexen really ambitious and impressive for his time, Hexen does hold up.
And it's also really fun to play.
Hexen, and plus, you could release it as a boomer shooter, Night Dive could do a restoration of Hexen, and they wouldn't have to do much.
No,
and
not
it would
at
still
all.
feel very unique to anything that's out now. So it's very...
Right.
So, let's leave Hexen at second place for the moment. But now, Wolfenstein and Singularity. This is the fight for who's going ahead.
Right. I'll state, I liked Singularity more than Wolfenstein.
Sure.
And I feel like Wolfenstein is, Wolfenstein suffers a little bit from trying to be too much like its contemporary shooters that it was released against in the military shooter genre. And I think Singularity, so they both suffer from that. Singularity suffers in a different way where it's trying to be more like it's more in the offhand bullshit, as I've started to call it.
Sure.
Where that's where it's kind of it's in that genre of shooter. Whereas, I mean, they're both in it. Yeah. Wolfenstein does the offhand thing too, except it's trying to merge that with military shooters.
Yes.
And I think it's both elements of it are weaker for it. I don't know. Yeah. It's still really tough because
here's how I see it. Because what we said about where Soldier of Fortune versus Star Wars, which is Singularity is more like Soldier of Fortune, as in it is constant throughout. There are some bits which get a little bit boring, and there are some bits which are exciting, but mostly throughout, it is incredibly. If you looked up solid in the dictionary, you would see a picture of Singularity, because that is a solid campaign.
Beginning to end, and it also, by far, has the best weapon on this list.
It does. It has a couple of cool weapons.
It has a couple of really cool weapons.
I will get... So that's the point then I would give to Singularity, is that it has better weapons than Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein has higher highs and lower lows. Every... cool... for every kind of because the open world is an interesting idea in Wolfenstein, but they don't really do. After a while,
there's not much done with it.
The gum loses flavor very quickly, which is a shame, because that's such a thing of, wouldn't it be cool if this was a big arena that you use to get between levels, but it doesn't quite reach that.
Right.
And then when you get to the next part of the game and it's all stealth, that sucks. But then the levels that it has are like, oh, but it does have really shit boss fights, which I guess Singularity kind of does boss fights, but they're not. But they're more just like heavies, like that they may lock you in.
Yeah,
the arena,
it's
but
heavies as opposed to it'll introduce a heavy, and then that heavy will become like a regular
I've kind of
enemy
talked
or
myself
something.
out of this now because I was ready to go to bat to be like, well, no, I think because Singularity is more consistent, and I even think
It's consistent and has it's consistent in its level of polish throughout.
And Wolfenstein, you can see how they could make the game like the episode we did with Jacob is so funny in regards to, but it's not as good as the machine games.
Oh yeah, we spend most of the time talking about literally every other
about
game.
talking about other Wolfenstein games than this versus Singularity, where it's like we read all the development stories about what they had planned to do with Singularity, but I imagine that game where you can age everything or whatever. And I prefer this. I prefer what eventually came out because it is so tight and so like is that Half-Life 2 Modern Warfare BioShock thing of very set piecey, and all the set pieces hit really well. You know,
it's a tight 10 hours. You know.
Oh yeah. It is a perfect rental game. Like it does have. We never tried the multiplayer in it, but the multiplayer was meant to be relatively interesting. The Wolfenstein multiplayer, not so much. Again, like Wolfenstein has like the Tesla cannon, but it also has like the fucking defense mission that you have to do where a guy is like, hey, let me put up the tower. And then you have to... the jetpack guys in Wolfenstein are so fucking bad. But then Wolfenstein has the cool fucking section where it's like Indiana Jones and you go into the temple. But then it also has a really bad boss fight where the guy's like a worm in the secret dimension. And so it's like... But then Singularity is just... I mean, I think of my favorite bit of Singularity of when I replayed it was the bit where the helicopter drops and there's a bunch of mooks running at you. And in any other game, that bit would suck because it's a wave thing, and people hate doing like horde mode wave stuff. But in Singularity, it's solid, and so it's like the fact that they're able to make that feel good is.
Yeah, there's and Singularity is number one. I mean, it's like I don't like saying that the the newest one is number one, but I think I think that's the thing to say, because I think a lot of people might be looking at it and going, oh, so you like it because it's newer, because you like quality of life and you like modern stuff. No. Singularity feels like a game that is made. It is made. It feels throughout. It feels like a game made by a developer that has been in business for 20 years. Because they started their company in 91 and this came out in 2010. So 19 years. And this feels like a game made by people who have 19 years of experience to go, well, we're not going to do the Valve thing of we're just going to show off all the magic tricks that we've learned over these years. It's more of we know how to take a disaster, which was the original version of this game, and turn it into a solid 7 out of 10. And that is genuinely impressive. Yep.
As a result.
Yeah. Singularity falls short. Singularity falls short of a lot of things in terms of what it was aiming for in the genre that it was in. Like it's no BioShock. But that being said, in comparison with everything else on this list, yeah, I agree. It's
And here's an interesting question to ask. So the game came out the year after Modern Warfare 2, which I think is like that's what killed Raven. That's why Singularity didn't sell, because what I was just saying now, where Valve is like, well, we're a developer that's been around for years and we're going to do all our magic tricks. Modern Warfare 2 is an example of a developer showing off all their fucking magic tricks, where they did that in Modern Warfare 1, and Modern Warfare 2 is like that, but way more like glitzy because they know what to do.
Right.
Is that going to age worse than Singularity, though?
It's a good question. I guess it really depends on what our point of view of like war games is going forward.
I think just more in regards to like, does spectacle age? Because I think sometimes it does. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Like, Tomb Raider 2013 is an interesting example of that, of when it came out at the time, the spectacle in that hits really hard, but you play that game 5 years later.
And it ages faster. Yeah, the bigger the moment, the longer the shelf life.
yeah, when Lara Croft like falls off a thing and rolls down the tunnel, that's cool the first time. But when you've seen other games do that, you look at it more mechanically of like, this is shit, it's taking control away from me, I hate this. And Modern Warfare 2 has a lot of moments like that where it feels like I would rather have more control versus the story you want to tell me. Singularity very rarely takes control away from. And in some fact, like the coolest bit of spectacle it has is the gun that lets you steer the bullet, and that is purely in the player's hands.
Yeah.
And Call of Duty has nothing. Well, Call of Duty has like the the plane sections and stuff like that, but nothing that really reaches that.
Right. Yeah.
That
I remember. So it actually reminds me of one of the big criticisms of it was in context, it's a kind of a small criticism, but I remember a lot of people complaining in Doom Eternal. There is a moment in which you shoot yourself into Mars, right?
Yes.
With a big gun. And in that moment, the game took control away from you. You didn't even get to press the button. There was no click. And I remember thinking about that, and that when you use the spectacle and you take the agency away from the player, I think it ages whatever you're doing a lot faster than if you tried to do something within the game to make it work, to make that work, You
have to use it sparingly, and especially when we talk about jobbers, when you use spectacle, it should at least be something that might teach a player something.
Sure.
With the laser to Mars, being shot to Mars, there's no way they could have done that. Well, I mean, they could have done it with portals or something, but
sure,
that's a cool trailer moment. That could be something that makes people buy the game. And
right.
Wolfenstein has a ton of those. It has the Nightcrawler Nazi guy, and it has these big boss battles and stuff. But actually engaging with them, they suck.
Right.
Because the Singularity is very workmanlike, as in it doesn't it uses spectacle very sparingly, but it's mostly it's more Half-Life. It's more it's not the best Half-Life 2 sequel, because that's still Titanfall 2, but
of course
it's solid in regards to, and again, and we were talking about BioShock, and BioShock is slightly better than Singularity, but when you compare the things that BioShock is doing and Singularity is doing, which is the tone and the setting of the magic powers. But BioShock has a lot of problems with it. The gunplay feels absolutely shit. Versus Singularity, where the gunplay
feels pretty
fabulous.
Good. Yeah.
And so it's competing with that stuff. But when it comes to the flaws of both games, the flaws of Singularity is still a little bit higher than that. So again, it's one of those games where it's a shame that it didn't do better.
It's a game I wish had done better, and that we were looking more into a lineage beyond a Raven lineage beyond Singularity would have been good to see.
It's a shame they never. Or I say it's a shame. I mean, never say never is the thing. I would love to see them make another original game after Warzone. I want them to take everything that they learned making the most polished games on earth with the Call of Duty stuff and apply that to Hexen 3.
That would be
wouldn't that be incredible?
That would be incredible. I think that would be huge too. If they were Raven is coming back. They're making Hexen 3. It's gonna be basically everything they've learned from Call of Duty, everything but also their old lineage, their old DNA is going to be in it. There's going to be magic, and there's going to be demons, and there's going to be all that stuff. I think that would blow the doors off of Twitter for a day.
A D&D campaign with the presentation and level of budget of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. That would be astonishingly good.
That's something I want right now.
Yeah, we're going to.
I'm going to write a letter.
It's going to be the end of Scanners where they're having the mental battle.
Yeah.
It's going to be that, but it's just making this game come into the Singularity. Then let's put that at number 1. Wolfenstein. I mean, it was funny because I talked myself out of, I was going to say, well, actually, could we put Hexen at number 1 instead? No, Hexen. Is Wolfenstein or Hexen number 2?
Yeah. I mean, I would almost say Wolfenstein goes to number 3.
Talk me through it. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts are Hexen is iconic. I think, and I know I'm bringing in like the cultural stuff around it.
Sure.
But Wolfenstein '09 of all the Wolfenstein games is the least, like, it's not even for sale anymore. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah. It's a whole nother thing. I mean, it should still be for sale. It's still a good game and all that wonderful stuff. But it's, of all the Wolfenstein games, it's probably like the one you think about the least.
No, it's not. I prefer playing Wolfenstein '09 over Wolfenstein 3D or Return to Castle Wolfenstein, but that is because they are games of those time. But this is, their cash and, innovation. Wolfenstein '09 isn't even in the conversation.
It's not even it's not that innovative. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Yeah,
it's better. I'd say it's better in terms of like quality of life and polish and all that stuff. It's better than Hexen.
It has more stuff than Hexen. You can do more in Wolfenstein, but then it's a new game. I totally talked myself out of it in this podcast of like, I thought it was going to be Singularity, Wolfenstein, and then whatever. No, I think Hexen has to be at second place and Wolf goes to third. Wolf is still better than Soldier. I'm not going to be like...
It's still better than Soldier of Fortune.
It's Soldier of Fortune, but no, it's better than... It's got way more going on than like...
It's got a lot of... Let's be honest. It ranks in... It's on the podium.
Of course.
And Soldier of Fortune is not.
No. The thing is that even like... Hexen came out in 1995. I was 4 years old. I didn't know what the space was at the time. Hexen, I only kind of learned about like later after the fact of like id Software stuff and Raven Software stuff. I had never played it until this podcast, and I would say that Hexen holds up, like especially if you're in the mindset of retro style shooters and like, because one of my favorite games of like this year was Power Slaved Exhumed, which was a night dive restoration of a game that came out in like 97, which, well, it was a Metroidvania Doom game, which is like, wow, two things I love together. And Hexen kind of is almost in that kind of area in regards to like, it's very non-linear. It's very about like solving puzzles that like you do something in area A and
solving puzzles while dealing with demon hordes.
Yeah. And it's funny, like in regards to stuff that it did, like, the different classes and whatever, I could kind of take it or leave it. It's a cool feature, but I don't really mind it that much. But it's not like the shooting feels really good in it. The level design's really solid in it. It does a lot. It squeezes more out of the Doom engine than like even the Star Wars stuff squeezes out of the Quake engine.
It does.
Those games are still very much about pushing buttons.
Yeah, this Hexen really wrings everything you can get out of that engine. I think so.
Yeah. I think in regards to the like Singularity is a Cinderella story that like Hexen doesn't really. Hexen is like, it's an incredibly accomplished developer's sophomore effort, which is like everything they learn on the first one, polish it all out. Well, Singularity is like, it's that developer nearly 20 years later showing that like Hexen 2 is a Hexen 2 is a Michelin star meal, while Singularity is like the best hamburger that you've ever had from a roadside diner.
I agree.
And
I agree.
So just to reiterate at home, so at number 2, last space is Star Trek Voyager Elite Forces. Number 9 is Quake 4. Number 8 is Heretic.
And then a huge there's I would say like a big gap.
Okay, so we should say that the gap between 9 and 8 is massive. So 8 is Heretic, 7 is Hexen 2, 6 is Star Trek, Star Wars. Is very much Star Wars. It's Star Wars, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. Number 5 then, so the top 5 are, at number 5 it is Star Wars, Jedi Knight 3, Jedi Academy. At number 4 is Soldier of Fortune. At number 3 is Wolfenstein. Number 2 is Hexen, Beyond Heretic. And then at number 1 is Raven Software's 2010 FPS, Singularity. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that.
I feel pretty good about that. Yeah.
I do wish, though, because Soldier of Fortune is so high up, Well, Raven Reloaded is something we'll talk about. Like, if we can do it as a Patreon series, that'd be fantastic. If not,
Soldier of
maybe
Fortune
we'll do
2.
Yeah, I'd love to do Double Helix after like giving it a bit more time.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe we'll try and get Cyclones working. Maybe if we have the budget to like bring in like older computer stuff, we'll give it a proper go.
We'll give it a shot.
And the newer Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War, I think would be an interesting case after Singularity. It's like
I think
a 10-year.
I think it would be worth checking out the Call of Duty stuff that they on a Raven Reloaded series.
Yes. And then, as for the last 5 minutes, I think this will go very quickly. Let's rank the box arts. So number one is Heretic, obviously.
I think Heretic's number one. Yeah.
Yeah, Heretic is the best box art. It's just, why don't they make? I mean, I guess
just give me a fucking wizard shooting
Yeah.
spells at skeletons. That's
it's cool as fuck. Like getting box. I'm so glad that we're out of the era where it was like Singularity is a perfect example of like what was the era of games box art like about 10 years ago, where it's a guy with maybe their back to you, or it's like a bit of them and they're holding the gun.
It's so
like
lame.
It's a soldier. It is lame. Like
yeah.
I'm so glad that with a boomer shooter thing, we've kind of got more of a return now to stuff that looks like Heretic.
My friends have a podcast called Oops All Monsters, and at the end of the episode of the monster they're talking about, they ask if that monster is bitchin' van art. Would you get that monster airbrushed on the side of a van? Heretic's cover, I would get airbrushed on the side of a van in a heartbeat.
If anyone would be doing it, I would have a poster of Heretic. Like if I had a room where I listened to heavy metal and smoked a lot of weed, I would have a Heretic poster up in there, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Moving down the list, I would say we go to Hexen maybe.
Hexen's got a Hexen's it's a little bit more understated than the Heretic one, but it's still very much like in the same.
It's there.
Era.
Yeah, it's in the same vein.
Yeah, I kind of like the title a bit. Like Heretic's title is kind of like old-fashioned D&D model, where like with Hexen they're leaning kind of more into like a Quake style. Whoa, it's like somebody scratched this out.
Scratched it into wood or something like that.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Next, I would put Wolfenstein.
Yeah,
and I think purely because of the thing that you were saying about Oops or Monsters, where it's like, would you have this guy spray painted on your car? I wouldn't, because people might think I'm a Nazi. But
if you remove
if I got rid of the Iron Eagle, maybe. But that is a cool design, and that guy does turn up in the game. So
yeah, and those guys are annoying, but you know they're bullet spongy.
Oh yeah, they are the sponges bullet guys. Now, controversial pick.
Okay.
Hexen 2.
AKA the Ricky Gervais atheist.
Yeah, he's doing the atheist pose. But that's like that leans into the whole Hexen 2 thing of like, yo, bitch, and what's this cool thing? This is like a little demon guy like starting it. This is like a shitty tattoo that you would get, but it's so in tone with those.
Yeah, things. I think it's still in line. I think it's but you can kind of see that things are starting to drift a little bit away from the art is starting to drift away from the source material a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting more into like Batman 89 territory of just like you have the logo or you have the typeface. You know, you don't do the monster manual thing of this is what the game use your imagination. This is what the game is like kind of thing. Which again, I prefer that just because I prefer a nice piece of artwork, you know?
Yeah. Rather than something abstract. Give me a dude with some fucking spells.
Yeah, exactly. And now I have no idea because all these ones just kind of blend together a little bit in my head.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would probably go. It's like it's tough, but I would probably go Singularity.
Yeah, you know what? Even though we were dunking on it, but it's still. Again, it's of its time, but it is still kind of like it's a cool gun. People like to see a nice, cool gun on a thing, and you know it draws your eye.
I would go with the two Star Wars games are just kind of like.
See, I was going to rank those lower because I think it's funny because those are very much in the Star Wars, in the Batman 89 thing of
just a logo.
Yeah, but I don't think that
they're not very visually appealing. what were
But
you
it's
thinking?
Soldier of Fortune, which is the one where I have no idea where to put it. Like, does it go below Singularity?
Soldier of Fortune just does. Yeah, I would put. I don't know. I feel like Soldier of Fortune is pretty low to me.
Let's put Soldier of Fortune underneath the Star Wars games then. So
yeah.
And now these two fucking.
Because it's just Soldier of Fortune is just some wanker with a sniper rifle. On the
yeah,
cover.
exactly. Like it's like again, it has the bit of the Che Guevara poster thing of yo, I'd have that on my wall, but also.
Right.
I don't know. It's just kind of whatever.
It's not even a dynamic angle. It's like it's poorly. No. It's a weird lighting. It's like there's no energy to it. Kind of. But
I like it. I like it more than these gruesome.
I would put. Okay, so this might be controversial. I would probably put Elite Force above Quake 4.
See, I was going to put Quake. I was going to say the opposite, but you say your piece.
Okay, so even though Elite Force has very graphic design is my passion energy,
it is so ugly.
It's like I like it because I feel like Quake 4 is just a reminder of what they took away from us, which was interesting Quake iconography. Like it is. It's like, hey, it's the Quake logo, but really fucking lame. So I look at it in comparison to that. But yeah, you are right. The Elite Force cover is atrocious, and it has a crosshair on it. Which
I'm gonna ask you a quick question though. I think this is what might be the decider on this. If somebody came over your house and was looking for your game collection, which would you feel less embarrassed about the box art? Because Quake 4, I feel like if they didn't know the game, they'd look at it and go, that's cool, it's just a big icon. I feel like I would feel genuinely embarrassed to have the Elite Four. It is so cringe.
It's like, you play this game? You've played this game? You're like, yeah.
Even if you don't know what Star Trek is, they look at it and go, is this some kind of sci-fi nerd game?
Are you a nerd?
Are you some kind of fucking nerd?
Yeah, I feel like that conversation could totally happen after being exposed to the Elite Force cover. It's terrible.
This is Quake 4 where it's kind of like, that's a cool symbol, and I guess it kind of looks like cyber stuff.
Yeah, you convinced me. Let's put Elite Force is at the bottom of both
lists. So Elite
lists.
Force is at the bottom of this list as well. And Quake 4 is above it in this list as well. So just for the folks at home, just to reiterate. So in dead last, winning the, I don't know, who's like a bad artist? Like
a cheap, lazy artist. Well, not to speak ill of the dead, but what's his name? Robert, was it Kincaid, the painter of lights? Thomas with the Thomas Kincaid Award.
Okay, yeah, so the Thomas Kincaid Award goes to Star Trek Voyager Elite Forces. Then coming up the rear, very close, is Quake 4. Then Soldier of Fortune, which is so much more generic than those two, but I like the personality of it more than those. But
sure.
Then followed by the Star Wars ones, which are just trying to get so much by on Star Wars.
And honestly, they could be interchangeable. I have no...
Oh, yeah. They're there at the same level, absolutely. Actually, I'm going to put Jedi Outcast just a little bit above it, because I like the neon blue more than the stupid marble texture the other one has.
Yeah.
Then Singularity, which again is a box art of the 2010s, but it's still eye catch. Hey, if it ain't broke, that everybody was doing it.
Everybody.
Then followed by Hexen 2, which of course looks like Ricky Gervais doing the
atheist thing.
The atheist
so fucking
thing.
Lame.
But it also looks like a cool tattoo that you get on your arm as well.
It's a regrettable tattoo. Yeah.
Yeah. Followed by Wolfenstein, which I wouldn't have it spray painted on a van because it's a Nazi, but cool blue skeleton. And the Wolfenstein text. We didn't even mention the type.
It is.
The Wolfenstein typeface is fucking cool, and the
word mark there. Yeah, that word mark is good. I mean, it's very good. It's better than Heretic's word mark.
We've already said it. If it ain't broke, like that Wolfenstein word art has been used like since Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah, it started with Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and that's just been the font since then.
Yeah. Followed by Hexen, which is just kind of a lesser version of our winner, which is Heretic, which is cool. Dungeons and Dragons monster manual.
Heretic is the bitch and van art of the list.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just looking at it again. It's like all those cool fucking skeletons. Those skeletons aren't even. Well, actually, there are some skeletons in the game, but you don't meet a skeleton who has like a cool pink do in the game.
Yeah,
That's a
no,
shame.
I love it. I wish, yeah, I mean, if the game was this with, it might have ranked higher.
If
on
it
our
was full
list.
of Ray Harryhausen skeletons, it would be number one.
Oh my god, wouldn't be that so cool if there was like a Ray Harryhausen style first person shooter where everything looked like stop motion?
Yeah, like try and. Well, I mean, you know, a lot of FPS games at the time did use. Doom
That's
uses
true.
clay models, doesn't
They
it?
use
But
clay
yeah, if it was
models
like
with photos.
a Ray Harryhausen FP. I mean, hey, we're pushing it. Hexen free. Let's make Hexen free happen. Let's have it full of fucking Ray Harryhausen
Yeah.
style skeletons rendered with the Call of Duty engine.
Fuck yeah.
Let's make it happen, folks. Kevin, once again, thank you for being on this mini series. I guess if this is the end of this mini series, have you got any? So what was your opinion on Raven going in, and what's your opinion, like, has it changed? Have they changed your estimation after this?
It's kind of like a. I would say Raven always had this opinion. I had an opinion of Raven that they were id light. You know,
Yeah.
they were basically id, but not quite there.
Sure.
You know, that being said, I feel like their output over the years, it's amazing. Their output has been much greater than id's overall.
sure, yeah.
In fact, I'm not even sure we would have enough games. Would we have enough games to do a top 10 with id?
Oh god, well that's what I mean. So
that
with
they
it, you
developed.
have Doom 1, you have Doom. I mean, you'd have to maybe put in the level parts because you get Doom 1, Doom 2, Quake 1, Quake 2, Quake 3 Arena,
Yeah,
Doom 3, Rage,
Rage.
Doom 2016, and Doom Eternals. Yeah, 9.
You'd have
You don't
9.
have enough games to do a top 10.
Yeah. So, and Wolfenstein 3D.
Sorry, I'm off.
So 10.
So yeah, 10.
Yeah. And that's just shooters, because otherwise you'd have to dig up like Commander Keen.
Oh yeah.
So that's Raven always felt like id light, but I just feel like they were more like it. What if id was just constantly churning out stuff?
Yeah. The more interesting id, I think. Because id,
Yeah.
like, every game they put out was, like, this weird trendsetter. But it felt like they were all designed to be trendsetters to begin with. If Wolfenstein 3D wasn't Wolfenstein 3D, it wouldn't have mattered because it would have been a game with that Raycaster engine in it. Same
Right.
with Doom. If Doom didn't have Doom's identity, it wouldn't have mattered because it would have still had that engine. They are very much defined by their tech, and that was all the way through, even all the way through to Rage. And Doom 2016 is a good-looking game, but I think it's just so more exciting of, oh shit, they managed to make a game that felt like Doom did in 93. And
Right.
Eternal's an interesting, because I fall on the camp of I don't particularly like it. Like, I prefer 2016 to it, but I can also appreciate it for, like, this is different. They're trying to make it more like a character action game. They're leaning into all this stuff. It's going beyond just, we made a good Doom game.
Right.
This is more like, how are we gonna like evolve this into the next century?
Right.
And Raven's stuff, although all of it is nowhere near to the level of polish of id stuff, I think is way more interesting. Like even when they hit a dud like fucking Star Trek, it never had the conversation. I mean, John Carmack always had the thing of strip out every element of this game until it's the core. Like,
Right.
he kept saying to them on like Heretic and Hexen, just make it Doom with a D&D skin. Whereas when he's less of a voice in this and they try and do a bit of exploration, yeah, a lot of it is a misfire, but
Right.
they're playing around with stuff, and it is just so much more interesting to like dig into these weird little kind of failures with that stuff more than just, oh, they got a fucking, they got a home run, which I think is so indicative of Singularity, where it is this really interesting piece of, no, it's not to the polish of Modern Warfare 2,
Right.
but Modern Warfare 2 is probably going to age like milk in the next 5 to 10 years, whereas Singularity is as good now as it was 10 years ago.
Singularity it's already done its aging, and it's
Yes.
good. It's going to just be good. I don't think that I don't think in another 10 years we're gonna change our opinion on Singularity any more than we have already.
And we're already looking at Singularity in a better light in regards to the games that are out today, where it's either like Far Cry or a Battle Royale. And this is nothing like it. It's a cool little single-player adventure game that they don't really make anymore outside of the Call of Duty campaigns. And
Exactly.
I think in that regards, yeah, it is a shame that Raven are now in the Call of Duty factory, but it feels like on Black Ops Cold War, they were able to be Raven again within the budget of a Call of Duty title. And it's the shitter that they are on Warzones, which is the most popular. It's the most popular franchise on Earth with the most popular genre on Earth. They may be working on that for the next 5 years, but my hope is, not that I want to be like, oh, thank you, Microsoft, for doing a big merger, but maybe the hope is with the Microsoft buyout, that might change the structure a little bit, and maybe they might be able to make like a little epic. Because I mean, like Bethesda's been fantastic with it, and like with Arcane and stuff, like they've been able to, like they've been able to make dingers, but then go off and make something else. Which, you know,
Bethesda. I mean, you know, say what you will about any giant corporation, including Bethesda, but Bethesda at least has been able to preserve id and Arcane and those companies, their identities, their core identities, while as I feel like, Raven has kind of just Activision just kind of like absorbed Raven into the machinery.
They basically said, hey, you guys, you know, fuck your imagination. We just want the talent because Call of Duty is the biggest thing on Earth. So, you know, and it wasn't just them. There's like Treyarch and Neversoft and like all these developers which used to make like all these little interesting games are all on Call of Duty. And I don't want this to be like a podcast of like, oh, Call of Duty are the worst games, because they're not. They're fabulous titles, but it's because of the talent that's behind them.
Right.
And the hope is that, you know, the worry is that if the wheels come off the Call of Duty train, it doesn't become, I'll do other stuff. It becomes closing all you down. You know, that's the nature of business. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to leave this on a downer. But I guess what I'll say then is that Raven Software is a developer I didn't really think of until this series, and I just have like the biggest appreciation for them now for what they're doing.
No, and I think that's the goal of the series, is to kind of cultivate and grow appreciation for, you know, the companies, the devs out there that, to borrow the tagline, not necessarily missed their mark, but have been overshadowed in the entire machinery of the FPS.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess that is the end of the Raven miniseries. And with that, Kevin, you have been a star in regards to, you were here at the beginning of the concept. The plan was originally we were going to like work on this and power through this together, but obviously you have a full-time job for one thing, but also but PixelLit is also like you have to balance with that. So it has been kind of a matter of like, you know, working around, you know, with other people and stuff. But yeah, obviously without you, this series wouldn't have even like got a start. So for all that,
thanks.
I can, like, say thank you for that.
Thanks,
and
James.
It's been fun. No, it has been fun, and I hope we do a little mini series together again. We'll be doing episodes like from here, but it'll be nice to kind of, especially like because this was the first mini series. It was interesting in regards to. This was, I mean, we recorded the miniseries before we even started anything else. So like, we had the interesting thing of like trying to work out how the series is going to pan out, like what things are we going to talk about and whatever. And yeah, it felt like towards the end we really did figure out what the energy was, which has obviously gone into everything else. So
right. Yeah. Well, James, it's been a blast. I love podcasting and being able to be part of this. Even just you know, banging out the concept at the beginning with you and all that stuff has been a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward.
I haven't even mentioned the fact that like the episodes that we did do, the miniseries, that was like a boot camp in regards to.
Oh yeah.
The plan was we were doing them at. I was going to say as Phil was being married, but that makes it sound like that was a long-term process of him being married. Not like a day.
It was while his wedding basically was. Phil, my podcast partner for PixelLit, is in the process of getting married and all that stuff. So yeah, a lot of our recording was based around the break that we took in PixelLit for him to focus on that. But it was a boot camp. We've gotten a lot of time in.
Oh yeah.
Ed, you've gotten time in with the other hosts now at this point, and I think it's great, and I can't wait to be to return for other series, perhaps a Christmas episode. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. It'll be
see.
exciting to see how. I'd love to see how things pan out. And again, we're not even in the new year yet. I mean, once this episode comes out, it will. But like,
right
after January, it feels like we'll be in a completely different space of like, what's the podcast looking like? What's our schedules looking like? Could we put like, what is in the future? And that's kind of what it has me excited. I think much like
good. I'm glad.
Cool.
I'm glad.
Before we wrap up, then is there? I think I know what the plug is going to be, but obviously you have you have the floor to say, because you'll be back for future episodes. But like, if people want to follow you, if they feel like they need more Kevin mini series,
if they feel like they need more of me, then they should check out PixelLit. You can follow me on Twitter at the Arcadeologist, but you can follow PixelLit at PixelLitPod on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also go to our website, pixelitpod.com, where we post all the episodes with the transcripts. PixelLit, for those of you who don't know, is a podcast in which we read, recap, and review books that have been spun off from video game series or their novelizations of video games, tie-ins to video games, et cetera, et cetera. James has been on the pod before.
That's true.
But yeah, and one other thing I mentioned it earlier in the episode, my good friends over at Oops All Monsters, who I took the concept of bitchin' van art from as my criteria for when I was rating the covers. Go check out Oops All Monsters with 2 O's and Oops as Tiamat intended. But yeah.
Cool. As usual, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. Unfortunately, this is the voice that you'll hear pretty much in every episode of the podcast. I've been James. You can follow me on Twitter at HotCyder, HOTCYDER. Next episode, it will be a new guest host. It's a voice that you haven't heard in a while. It'll be Snake, who actually I guess you would have heard him on the Christmas episode. Kevin, well, depending on what happens with that. But that'll be another one-off. We're going to be covering the third-person shooter, 50 Cent Blood on the Sand, the 50 Cent tie-in game, and we'll be doing that with video maker Mitch Kramer from the channel Heavy Eyed. So I hope you join us for that. But until then, thank you very much for joining us for this Raven mini-series, and as always, folks, keep blasting.
Caw-caw!
Caw-caw! Caw-caw!
Like
oh yeah, we didn't
raven.
do a lot of Raven sounds, did we, for this?
No. Too late now.
we did some now, so I guess.
Yeah, just sprinkle that in.
Yeah, exactly. The Bullet Time Podcast is made possible by Eric Hamilton Schneider, Valerie B, VG, and the Hot Cider support tier. If you'd like to help with the production of episodes and gain access to extra content, consider supporting over at patreon.com/hotcider. That's HOTCYDER. A special thanks to Max Coburn for the Bullet Time theme tune.